Hi, my name is Brad Wood, and I'm the founder of the Life All Stars Youth Financial Literacy Organization. And here today, I'm going to be presenting a lesson on banking your bucks, talking about saving and checking accounts and banking accounts. So let's go ahead and share the presentation and start walking through. So essentially, banks and banking your bucks, what we're talking about is being able to think about where would you take money? So let's think about where you get money. So let's say I was to send you a check and say your name is Johnny B. Good and the Life All Stars wrote you a check for $20. And you're like, wow, I want to be able to use this money to buy things that I want. Now, the challenge is that this check, is written to you, and if you want to convert it into cash, you'll likely need to go to a bank in order to convert it over from a check into cash. But what you want to think about is, okay, so this check is written from the Life All Stars, and I've written in our PO box and our location here in Sugar Land, Texas. It's written on December 25th, 2024, and it's to the order of Johnny B. Good. So your name, if your name is Johnny B. Good, the check would be good for you, and it's for the value of $20. And when you see this line here, this tells you to make sure that the amount that's written here equals the amount that's written on this line. So it's only $20 and 00/$100. So that means only $20 and no cents. And it's a gift check, and it's written with my authorized signature of Brad Wood. And so these numbers down here are how the bank really recognizes that it's coming from my account at the Life All Stars. So it has, a routing number, an account number here, and a check number at the end, which corresponds to this check number up here. So you can tell that this would be a check. It's just an example. It's not something that you'd be able to print out and cash, but this is an example of what a check would look like. So if you receive this in the mail, you'd want to be able to do something with it. So let's talk about how you would engage a bank. But first, let's think about what you would use a bank for. Well, normally you use a bank for those emergency type of savings or things that you need now, like for daily expenses or essential needs. And we've talked about in our prior lessons about wants and needs. And so you'd want to have something that you'd be able to use, in the near term. But you can also consider, well, how I could save for things I might want soon, maybe in the next 5 to 7 years. You might want a car, you might want to save money towards college, you may want to save money towards a computer or a video game console or other things. And then you can think about the later things, things that you'd want to buy, say a house or retirement savings or a vacation trip, those type of things that you'd want to have. So banks are ideal for managing cash and savings and checking so you can have for an emergency fund or for things that you need to transact and have access to right now. So if you need to go to the store to buy food, you'd want to have money basically in your savings account or in your checking account so that you could access that money and be able to use it to buy food. So banks are broken down into two types of institutions. So you have credit unions, which are nonprofit institutions. They're not out to make a profit. Everything that they do supposed to all their profits and expenses are supposed to all balance out. It's owned by the members, and you have to be a member, meet certain criteria in order to be a member. So you have, say, the Army Federal Credit Union. Well, you need to have been in the Army, or the Navy Federal Credit Union. You need to have been in the Navy, or there's a Houston Credit Union, which you need to be a resident of Houston, or there's a teachers credit union, so you need to be a teacher. And they offer the same services as banks, and they operate under state and federal laws. So if you have a credit union near your house that, and you meet these criteria, you could open up an account in that credit union. Now, a bank, that's mostly owned by shareholders, and some are owned by people who deposit their money there. And they make loans, they pay checks, they accept deposits and other financial services, and they operate under state and federal laws and regulations. So you have banks like Chase Bank or Comerica Bank or um, other types of institutions, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. Those are the banks that you can go into the lobby and say, "Hey, I want to open up a checking or savings account," and you would be able to apply for that. So let's talk a little bit about the services of what banks offer. So banks offer key things like keeping your money safe. So if I sent you that check for $20 and you converted, you lost that check, well, that money is no longer available to you. And if you had, say, that $20 in your pocket and you put it through the washing machine, maybe that $20 got destroyed and you no longer have that $20. So you want to keep your money safe, and so banks do a good job of keeping it safe. They also hold your money in accounts, so you can see the value of it, you can see it grow, but you don't necessarily have to touch it. It doesn't have to be in your piggy bank or in your sock drawer or something like that. This you can see how it accumulates and be able to see the balance anytime you want to see it. You can also get loans to help buy for big ticket items. So they offer loans to people with good credit, and what they do is they take the money that has been put into savings and checking and deposits, and they invest that money into people in your community that want to use that money to, say, buy a house or to buy a car or to do a renovation on their house. So basically they're leveraging the money that you use and you've put into that institution so that people can buy a car or get a house that they wouldn't be able to buy with their own money. And savings accounts also help your money grow. Now, it's not grows by a lot. It's called interest. So they'll give you a little bit of money for putting the money into a savings account. It tends to be less than 1% return, but it is a little bit of money, and it incentivizes you to put your deposits into that bank. And checking accounts is another thing, and that helps you buy things without having to have cash around. So you can write, like that check I wrote on Christmas Day, you could write a check out for an amount, and that check is treated just like money. So if you write a check for $20, now certainly you need to make sure that you have $20 in your checking account so that you can, pay the checks, but it helps you buy things without having, exact change. So if you want to write a check for $18.16, you could write that out instead of giving the person a $20 bill and getting the change. So again, you've got savings and checking accounts. So a savings account is a safe place for you to save money and earn interest over time. And a checking account normally doesn't pay interest, but it allows you to pay bills and buy goods and services with the money you have deposited by essentially allowing you to write checks or to use your debit card. So let's talk about these accounts. So that checking account, that lets you have a debit card. So that card is tied to your checking account. So you can tap to pay, you can insert it and type in a PIN, or swipe and use a PIN to pay for things. And it's used for day-to-day spending. And typically doesn't earn any interest. But that debit card allows you to spend that money pretty easily. And you also get a checking, some checks that you can actually write, just like I used for the Christmas Day example. And then on savings accounts, those earn interest, but it's a low amount of interest. And you typically don't get a debit card for it. And it's really not used for day-to-day spending. It's really used when, you have a need and you want to buy a puppy dog, and so you go to the bank and you write a withdrawal slip to be able to get enough money to pay for the puppy dog. So we'll walk about talk about how do you get money into one of these accounts. So like I said, I wrote you a check, or Johnny Be Good a check for $20, and you need to deposit that money. So you essentially, what's a deposit mean? Well, deposit means that you're taking that $20 that is written onto that check and you're transferring it into your savings account or your checking account so that you can use that money for how you wish. Or you can cash it. So deposit means that you're not going to get the money back in cash. You're not going to get a $20 bill or two $10 bills or four $5 bills. The money is going to be shown as a line item as having been added to your savings account or to your checking account. So how do you put that money into the bank? Well, let's walk through an example here. So here's an example of a Comerica Bank savings deposit checking deposit slip. So essentially on the slip, it says Comerica Bank and it says savings deposit and it has a date. So you would be writing, depositing that check I wrote on the 25th. Well, the bank isn't open on Christmas Day, so you could probably go in a couple days later and deposit that check. So I just wrote down December 28th. And you'd say, well, my name's Johnny Be Good, and I have a check for $20. And oh, by the way, I need $2 because I want to get a comic book. And so essentially the net deposit to my savings account would be $18 because $20 minus $2 is $18. So they would give you $2 and you say, I'm depositing it to my savings account. And this is a fake savings account number, but it's, it just, that's the number that you would write in here, or you would write in the number of your particular savings account. And you would sign this, Johnny Be Good up here, saying that you've agreed and reviewed the form and it's accurate and complete. So this is a completed deposit for you to be able to put the money into savings account. Now say, hey, I want to withdraw money. So say a month has passed and you want to make a gift or buy a present for a friend of yours. And so you're going to be withdrawing money because there's money in your savings account that you want to access. And so withdrawal means that you're going to be taking out or um, reducing the amount in your savings account by whatever you take out. And so how do you take money out of a bank? Well, there's a slip. So here's an example of a Comerica Bank savings account withdrawal slip. So you would withdraw the, say on January 30th of 2025, you want to withdraw $18. So you'd say, I'm going to withdraw only $18 and 00100s. And your name is Johnny Be Good. And you'd write your signature here and you put your address here and you're removing it or withdrawing it from your savings account. This is the same savings account number that we had used for the deposit. And you're withdrawing that $18 because you want to be able to do something with that money. And that's would allow you to withdraw. So we showed you how to you had a check. We showed you how to deposit that check into your savings account. And we also showed you how to fully withdraw that money out of your savings account if you needed to. So another way you can manage your money is through ATM. So you have your debit card. If you had a checking account, not a savings account, but if you had a checking account, you have a ability to use these ATMs. And you've probably seen adults that put these plastic cards into the machine, and then all of a sudden money starts spitting out. Well, the thing is that the money, just like you use that withdrawal slip at the bank physically, an ATM just uses and trusts your card and your PIN number. PIN number is just a 4-digit number that you use. So You say, this is a number I'm going to remember, and you use that to help authenticate yourself. Because, say, somebody got your debit card and they tried to use it, they would try to drain your account. So you don't want that to happen. So you want to have a good PIN number that you would use when you put it into the ATM. And the thing is you can only withdraw as much money as you have in your account. You can't withdraw more than that. So if you had $18 in your bank account and you go to an ATM and the ATM only distributes $20 bills, well, you wouldn't be able to withdraw that $18. You'd have to do that transaction at the bank because you only have $18 in your checking account. You can't withdraw anything more than what's in your checking account. And so the benefit is you get easy access to your cash from your checking account. You can view your balance. You can use your debit card to pay at most grocery stores or other vendors. And but the risk is that sometimes when you go to an ATM, there's a withdrawal fee because they're putting money into these machines every night so that people can access it. And that takes, have to pay somebody to go there. They have to unlock the ATM. They have to put the money into the ATM, and that costs them money, electricity, all those things. So they'll charge you a fee, and sometimes those fees can be pretty high. It can be $3 to $5 sometimes. And you could also lose your money because you shared your PIN with somebody. You shared your card and your PIN, and they know your PIN number. They took your card, and now you don't have the money in your account anymore. And you could also leave your card in the ATM by accident. So if somebody steals your card. So you want to be really careful if you have one of these debit cards and a checking account because basically the debit card allows you full access to however much money that you have in your checking account. And so you have to be really, really careful with these debit cards. But you can also manage your money from a website or from a phone app. And banking apps are great for, account access and management, for budgeting. You can watch your money grow, for transferring money between accounts. So if you have money in your savings account and your checking account is running low, you can always transfer the money over between those accounts. Allows you to have digital wallets so that they're secure. And it's also for payments. So if you have to pay a bill, you can use those and auto pay those bills. So you don't have to use a stamp to write a check and pay the water bill or other types of bills. So in summary, a bank you can open after you open a savings account or a checking account. And when you open a savings account or a checking account, you're going to need to have some key information. You're going to have your name, address, probably need a birth certificate. You'll probably need your social security card so that they can validate who you are, or some other type of ID like a driver's license. But many of you're not going to have a driver's license. But you're going to need to have some form of identification. You may also need a parent or a guardian be a co-signer on your account because if you're too young, they'll require that as a youth account. But this allows you to have a savings account, which would allow you to make deposits, and you can put money in to the checking or savings account, or you can take money out, which is called a withdrawal. And the bank keeps your money safe and it pays you interest, mainly on your savings account. Now, why would a bank pay you interest? Well, when you have money in your savings account, you're lending money to the bank, and the bank then lends that money to other people. So they pay the money back, so the individuals that the bank loans money to, when they pay back the bank with interest, the bank is now sharing a small part of that money back to you from the loans. So the customer deposits money into the savings account at the bank. The bank keeps the money safe. And then the bank loans that money to other people who pay interest. And some of that interest goes back to the customers saving their money in the bank. So these are the main elements of banks with checking and savings, with debit cards, and with making a deposit. So hopefully you found this to be helpful. And we're going to have an exercise here shortly that's going to be walking you through paying a bill with a checking account. So hopefully you found this fun and look forward to seeing you for our next lesson.